Welcome to First Unitarian Church. I'm Jan Shea, and I'll be serving as your worship associate today for this Music Sunday. First Unitarian Church is a welcoming congregation. No matter your race, no matter your creed, no matter your political affiliation, no matter your financial situation, and no matter whom you love, you are welcome here. I invite you to take a moment to look at the insert this week in your order of service. Take a moment to read about the many events and activities that are going on here at First U. Exciting things, exciting. We offer an especially warm welcome to any of you who are visiting with us today for the first time. We're glad you came, and we'd like to invite you to fill out one of our green visitor cards at the welcome table after the service. And we hope you'll stay for coffee and snacks and give us a chance to get to know you a little better. Next Sunday, September 8th, is Ingathering Sunday. Our service will include our annual water communion ritual, so please remember to bring water from a garden, pond, ocean, sink, or elsewhere to represent any journeys or experiences from the past year. Next Sunday is also our next pop-up choir, open to anyone age 9 or older. We'll meet here in the sanctuary at 9:30 a.m., learn a song, and sing it in the service. No previous experience is required. Just come and have fun. We will not be having our usual in-gathering picnic this year because we'll be directing our energy towards other upcoming events, such as our building rededication ceremony and the installation ceremony for Reverend Pam. In the meantime, there will be a whole church potluck on Sunday, September 15th from 12:30 to 4:30 at Bellevue State Park. Check your e-news for sign-up information. This morning's service was made possible by the Counterpoint Society of First Unitarian Church. To learn more about Counterpoint, talk to me, Scott Ward, Jim Weddle, or any member of the choir after the service. And one final announcement. This morning's coffee hour snacks are being provided by the First U Choir. We'd love for your group or a group of your friends to coordinate snacks on an upcoming Sunday. Just go to the church website, click on Hospitality, and sign up. And now I invite you to turn and greet those around you in the spirit of peace. Today's call to worship is Let It Go by Gretchen Haley. Whatever you have come in anticipating, whatever you expect or worry for our world, for the future, for our lives, let it go. Make space in your heart to be surprised. Make room in your soul for a new story to take place. Let astonishment be possible at this life that remains a miracle. Imagine here the bursting of joy, relentless and resilient, coming in waves, washing over us with music and story and silence, and still this dreaming together, being hope for each other and courage to believe in this new day dawning for us all. Come, let us worship together.
When my friend Bob Thick took over a theater in Hopewell, New Jersey, which the owner, George Gallup, used as a field testing location, I thought he was crazy. His wife had been brutally murdered by a high school student who she had flunked from English in his senior year, making it impossible for him to graduate, so he shot her. Their son, Robbie, 12 years old at the time, quickly fell into a pathway of drugs and alcoholism, and the choir we sang in together, the Trinity Church of Princeton Men and Boys Choir, wasn't truly stepping up to the Christian ideal to support Bob. But he went ahead and leased this theater in a small New Jersey town called Hopewell, with the parents of his best friend from Michigan providing construction support and cooking to become the first dessert theater in New Jersey. And he fell in love with Julie, and they married and made a house. I thought it would fail, the theater. But I was driving a school bus, actually as the assistant director of the transportation coordinator of Princeton Regional Schools. I trained the drivers, did the safety classes with the kids, rode the troubled routes, and drove countless school trips. I saw Les Mis 7 times. It was a job I enjoyed, but just one in a long line of short-lived jobs a college musician dropout took on. It had no future, so when Bob offered me a job and said I could still drive a school bus part-time, I took it. When the theater opened, George Gallup came to me and said, "I am so glad that the light of liberal faith will still shine in Hopewell." George was a member of the church I sang with, a very wealthy Episcopal church, but he told me years later that he was a closet Unitarian. He didn't mean he hoped his dreams would still shine. He meant he hoped that the possibility of truth would still shine. I am so glad that the light of liberal faith will still shine in Hopewell. That was his dream of Gallup polls, not to prove someone else's belief, but to shine the truth, the real opinion of the people. That is what we try to do every Sunday as we light this chalice. The first show, Starting Here, Starting Now, by Maltby and Shire. Please join me in saying our unison affirmation. First, Unitarian. Starting Here, Starting Now was the first musical revue Scott had ever played. He has done several since then, Side by Side Sondheim, It's Wonderful of Gershwin, Jacques Brel, Porter Gershwin, a retrospective. But Starting Here, Starting Now was the most powerful, his first jump into the genre, and the first time that music, emotions, and heart came together. The first time he could acknowledge in public his love for another person who was the same sex as him.
Autumn, it feels like autumn, and though the breeze is still, I feel the chill of autumn. Oh yes, it's autumn, it's always autumn, however still the breeze, I know it's always autumn. I can feel the wind now that makes the spring and summer dreams seem lost now. Why can't the autumn haze recall the days of warm summer laughter that came after in autumn? He left in autumn, and though another day is here, I see the sleepiness of autumn every year. Autumn, autumn, I can feel the wind blow that makes my spring and summer dreams seem lost now. Why can't the autumn haze recall the days of warm summer laughter that came soon after in autumn? He left in autumn, and though another season's here, I can still feel the chill of autumn. Autumn,
I invite you now to speak the name of anyone who may be in need of the support and healing energy of this community at this time in their life. It could be a friend or family member, a neighbor, perhaps even your own name. May we hold these names, spoken and unspoken, in our hearts today.
I hear bells in the summer night. We have the honor this morning of speaking with Mr. David Shire. Morning, David.
Morning. Happy Labor Day.
You all got a copy of his bio, so you know what an important person in the life of the Broadway musical Mr. Shire is, and it's truly an honor to have you with us. This is our first experiment of Skyping on our new system, so there are little pauses that we have to put in. But I'm going to ask a couple questions. Then I encourage anybody who would like to ask questions of David to come up here, tell me what the question is, I'll ask it. So, David, you and Richard Maltby both starting now in the late 70s. What was going on in your life then?
Well, we were kind of on a hiatus from our collaboration. I should go back a little bit. Starting Here, Starting Now is us way ahead of today, being recyclers, where other people recycle tin and plastic and paper now. We were recycling songs then. We had written a lot of songs from the time we were at Yale in 1958 to 1977. We wrote 2 shows at Yale. We wrote an off-Broadway show when we got to New York. We wrote a lot of shows, 3 or 4 that didn't get onto Broadway or off-Broadway. And then we were given an assignment to rewrite a score to a Broadway show that was coming in and had backing and everything. It wasn't a title we would have picked. It was about, it was called Love Match, and it was about Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. That, by the way, is the Albert in the song that you heard a few minutes ago, which was recycled from that show, which closed out of town and wound up in Starting Here, Starting Now. So anyway, after that show closed, after trying out in Los Angeles, Richard and I kind of parted ways for a while. We were at a point in our career where we had been trying to get to Broadway and were a promising team, but we hadn't really, in our minds, fulfilled any of that promise. So the show closed in Los Angeles, and I stayed there and started writing film scores. Richard stayed in New York and started directing, and we both wound up with very successful starts in each of those areas. And then Richard got a call from Lynn Meadow, the founder and head of the Manhattan Theater Club in New York, saying, "You have a lot of songs that haven't reached the public. Why don't you put together a revue made up of a lot of those songs?" And Richard called me and told me the idea, and I said, "That's a terrible idea." I had kind of given up on those songs and decided that they were doomed to a place in the filing cabinet for the rest of our lives. And Richard said, no, let me put together an evening, and you'll come to rehearsal, and if you don't like it, we just won't do it. So I said, okay, and I gave him access to the filing cabinet, and he whipped out all of these songs, some of which were quite dog-eared and yellow. They went all the way back 10 or 15 years to Yale. And he put together the show. I flew to New York and saw it, and I was just terribly moved. It was like a reincarnation of a body of work that I had kind of given up on. Not kind of, I had given up on it. And that became the basis of Starting Here, Starting Now. It wound up after the Manhattan Theater Club opening at a converted nightclub in Manhattan called Barbara Ann's. and a lot of people came and made a lot of noise and kind of reestablished our the trajectory of our career, which had been interrupted with our Party of the Ways previously. So that's kind of the genesis of starting here, starting now.
That's great, thank you. Mimi said in a reading that one of my first jobs as a professional music director was at a theater called the Off-Broad Street Theater, Hopewell, New Jersey. And the first show we did was Starting Here, Starting Now. And the former owners who started the theater, here. September, what was the date? 10th of October.
I think it just scanned well. We were Richard had the job of taking a song which was written for a very specific dramatic situation. Prince Albert had just, Queen Victoria had just met Prince Albert, who came over from Germany as her chosen husband. And she was very kind of what we remember as Queen Victoria, but as a 15-year-old and 16-year-old. And Albert left, and she suddenly burst into smiles and sang this song about what a wonderful day it was, and I'm going to go back to my room and write all of this down in my diary. That's the 10th of October. I think Richard just picked because it scanned well in the lyric. Remember, this 10th of October, January wouldn't have worked, or February with that particular melody. So whether it's historically accurate or not, I have no idea. But anyway, he tried to make a song that would be freed from its historical use situation and make it just a general song about a girl who has just met someone she knows she's going to spend the rest of her life with.
Thank you. Here I thought it was some mystical, magical date. Now, this is a very unfair question to ask. Of the songs in Starting Here, Starting Now, do you have a favorite?
Not really. It's like trying to ask who's your favorite child. They all have certain psychological resonance to me. I mean, I like What About Today because it was a very personal song. I wrote it to get out of a depression that I was in. That's the only song on the show that I did the music and the lyrics for. And it was just a rare song that was written for no particular dramatic use at all. It was just I sat down one day and wrote that song. It wound up being recorded by Barbara Streisand. So that shows what happens when you're just writing to please yourself, and you never know what's going to happen.
Does anyone from the choir or the congregation like to ask David a question? You're going to have to come down and use this mic. This mic is connected to him. Anybody have a question for David? Anybody from the choir? Are you still writing? Are you still writing?
Pardon me?
Are you still writing?
Oh, as much or more than ever. Richard and I are working on, have been working intermittently on 3 or 4 different shows for the last 5 or 10 years, all of which have had out-of-town tryouts. And it's the nature of shows now that you do workshop after workshop and trial production after trial production. Used to write a show, would go to New Haven, try out, come in and open. Now it takes 5 to 10 years to get a show into New York. Anyway, we've been working on one show that originated in Toronto, another one that originated by a producer in Bangkok, which Richard was hired to translate for production in the United States, and we wound up rewriting the whole score. And that has had 2 major productions, but has not reached Broadway. And we wrote a Broadway show called Big, which opened about 20 years ago on Broadway. And it only ran for a year, but it has had a lot of regional productions. And it's about to open in England in 2 weeks with a new major production after we've rewritten it yet again. I'm still scoring the occasional film. I'm working on an indie feature right now. And there's a new original musical we've done, an adaptation of The Country Wife, and that is on one of the back burners. And a show called Take Flight, which had opened in England, and it's had a number of productions around the world, but still has not reached Broadway. Richard has a new angle on how to present it. And we are actually working on that show, which is almost 15 years old, and trying to still get it into New York. So we keep busy, and that's the way I like it. My college friends at reunions ask me why I'm not retired like they are, and I say, well, if I retired, I'd still do the same thing I do every day. But I wouldn't get paid for it. By the way, before you ask me another question, I want to just tell you how beautifully and the songs that I've heard so far have been performed. It was very moving to see them performed in this particular circumstances, the likes of which I've never seen them performed in before. My wife is sitting here, and they made her cry, and I was quite moved myself. I'm very moved by their service and very honored to have songs that I have co-written used in this quite special setting. So thank you. I hope so. I'm 82.
Sends his regards and wishes he was here to sing your music, but he had a prior engagement. David was the first Perone in Evita, and has been a fan of yours for decades.
Well, David's wife, Gretchen. Are we still on mute?
No, I'm going to hang up now, and we're going to
okay.
do one of my favorite songs from your show. No pressure, David.
No, none at all.
Thank you again, sir.
I am sitting here doing the Sunday Times crossword puzzle. Somehow the words won't come. I am staring at squares, but my eyes never focus, and my mind's feeling strangely numb. What's a 5-letter word? Bring here's an example. To down a Peruvian poison dart. Why, when Hecky and me used to breeze through the puzzle on Sunday, the answer would make in my heart beast. That's a new GNU. Boop-boop-be-doo. Where is Hecky now? Ha! He ran off with some floozy on a boat bound for warmer climes. And he left me here doing the crossword puzzle in the Sunday. All the times we had fun here, when more often than not, he'd say, "Hon, what's a pustule?" And I'd say, "It's a blot." He'd say, "Afghani nomad," and I'd say, "It's a curve." I let him hold a pencil. He could write in the word. And when he was having trouble spelling tryst, T-R-Y-S-T, I showed him how I showed him. 23 across, lover, archaic, amorous, A-M-O-R-I-S-T, blank. I am sitting here doing the Sunday Times crossword puzzle. Somehow the words won't come. Who could figure it? Me with my splendid vocabulary. Maybe I should play dumb. What's the four-letter word? Meaning why should it happen to us? There was never a moment's doubt. All at once, Hecky's jumping and screaming and yelling. I tell you, the four-letter words came out. Prefix, that means pro. P-R-O. Bodeo-do. Start you feeling as if having brains or intelligence is one of the world's worst crimes. And the sentence is doing the crossword puzzle in a Sunday. All the times that he'd tell me, "You shut up, this I'll get." 7 blanks meaning air hole. It's fistula, I'll bet. I'd say no, he'd say don't tell me. It's tubulus, tubuli. I'd say Hecky, it's chimney. Hecky'd sit down and cry. Perhaps that's why I'm left here on the shelf. Perhaps he wanted to get the long ones by himself. 38 across, she carries a torch. Statue of Liberty, S-T-A-T-U-E-O-F-L-I-B-E-R-T. Why? I am sitting here doing the Sunday Times crossword, and I know why the words won't come. 'Cause my mind is far off on a boat to Bermuda with an ignorant, lousy crumb. What's a 4-letter word meaning Phi Beta Kappa? That's me. I'm as bright as a girl can be. So bright someone else who could not tell a fig from a frigate is off with my Hecky at sea. Bird, that's an auk. A-U-K. Auk! If I weren't so dumb, I'd be spending next Sunday in a church hearing wedding chimes. And I'd never remember there was a puzzle in the Sunday Times.
Good morning. My name is Jim Weddle. Lori and I have been attending First Unitarian Church of Wilmington for over 25 years. We have found we value many things here. The reassurance we experience in this accepting community, the respect for diverse people and diverse points of view, the challenge of being responsible for developing our own beliefs, the comfort from pastoral care, the wisdom at Sunday services and adult religious exploration, the work, fun, and bliss of singing and experiencing the music here. I invite you to take a moment to think about what you value at First Unitarian Church. Because of the high value that Lori and I have for this church, we feel very dedicated to First Unitarian Church, and we try to reflect that in our stewardship. When the word stewardship is mentioned, we typically think of monetary donations, like the offering that is about to be collected, the Counterpoint Society that supports music like this morning, and other special funds. But stewardship is also volunteering. This church could not begin to afford the thousands of hours of volunteer work done by so many of you. Without your volunteer service, we would have to pay for more staff and more contractors to paint rooms, govern our congregation, maintain landscaping, staff the office, provide music for services, teach and guide our young adults, our children, create care packages for young adults leaving foster care, promoting social action in our community, and so much more. Volunteering can be very satisfying and rewarding. It also has the benefit of community building in the church. Clearly, there are many pathways for contributing time, talents, and money for the stewardship of this church. Given the value you have for this church, I invite you to take a moment to think about ways you are or would like to contribute to its stewardship. Please join me in reciting our offering dedication as shown on the screen. Offering will now be collected. Your generous contribution to the operation of our church is gratefully received.
I know you folks are very theatrically wise, so I know this news will come as a slight surprise. But just in case you're in doubt as to whether or not the weather, this is one of those songs with two parts that roll over together.
So, when can you share raw emotions? Publicly? On stage? Relationships can go, what do they say? South. Sure, you try to forget the bad ones, celebrate the good ones. Pretend the volatile ones never happened. I don't remember you. I don't remember Christmas. I don't remember your smell, your touch, your existence. I don't remember you.
I'm going to take a little artistic license, and I'm skipping the next song. So Rebecca, would you do your reading, please?
Yesterday cannot change. Tomorrow, who knows? But what about today? What about today? Can I move the mountains, the seas, the heart today? What about today? We can love and care and cry and need today. So what about today? Our children, our partners, our lovers, ourselves. What about today? What about today? I have no idea, but just a thought of what if? What if I find true love today? What if I find truth about today? What about today?
Safe travels home. Shall we fly?